Hello. Still haven't gone down there. Been really depressed all day. What's so wrong with honesty? What's so wrong with, you know? Like, is he actually worried that they'll never look back? And what does that say? What does that say about the industry? What does that say about him? And I got probably 50 subscribers on this channel that are all him. He puts these stupid fucking pictures. As the profile pictures. All the comments are all him, I'm sure of it. Maybe that's not completely true, but it's true. And so everyone in Hollywood is just like sticking their nose up. Hey, buddy. Right? They're all just like, whatever, right? Not my monkey, not my circus, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong, right? It's only the women who get debased in a ritualistic, satanic fashion who have to actually worry about this movie, about what it represents to their families, right? That's like, yep, Channing Tatum, you're right. You're right, that 12-year-old daughter you got, right? Let's just hope she never has to, right, spread her legs for a satanic psychic who won't let her live her own life, right? Who puts her in such a state that she lies to everyone constantly, including you, her father. Mikey Madison, Sydney Sweeney. Right? Manly Palmer Hall's rolling over in his grave every day. LA Times, New York Times, Columbia School of Journalism, every law review, right? Every major film festival, every major talent agent in the States, in France, in Israel, right? Every major theater producer in England, every major, right? I could do this for 15 minutes, just all the institutions that I wrote, every major school of psychiatry, right? So, like the real existential crisis of it all is the hard truth that the women had to face in that moment, right? That in me not submitting to Quentin, right? That they now have to decide like where they fall on the spectrum of how he treats them, right? That if it was them who wanted me to play it, right, then they now have to actively fight for, right, the ability to see something redeemable in the mirror. That they have to actually say, no, we don't care that he burned him because Quentin never had to treat him that way. Now, he doesn't have to treat any of us this way. And that's always true, isn't it? Right? Sam Jackson got a daughter. Maybe she's a 40-year-old beat up whore like Daniela, but all the same, right? You okay with her getting tied up against her will? Right? So, I'm talking about it. I don't know. Just don't know. So what does Fish have to say about it? You know, like what's the joke? You know, where's the punchline? Sure, I'm the punchline. You guys are all gonna try to kill me on April 17th, right? Every major newspaper in Las Vegas, right? The hotels closest to the Sphere, all of the staff of the Sphere, right? They all know. They've all seen that essay, right? So, marriage is marriages fall apart. That's the point. God steers the ship always, even when you don't think so. Right? When Quentin got me thrown out of that show, right? Tribeca he doomed him. He doomed himself. That's right. But not only did he get me thrown out of the show, right? He refused to say anything to me at all. Right? And so, Daniela's family, every major rabbi in the U.S., every major rabbi in Tel Aviv, I don't know. It's endless cascades of concern. For what, For what? For me to still be alone, For him to still have control, a disgusting amount of control over the whole industry. Stacey Sher, why don't you fucking marry him, Stacey? Angie McDonald. What, you want to call yourself a feminist? Oh, that's right. You both know he's a fucking creep, and you'd never let him anywhere near your daughters, would you? Very funny. And that's right, and that's the joke, isn't it? Right? That I'm the sacrifice. Because you could trust me around the women. Right? And so now, right? Now you have no choice but to admit that is true. Right? But in exchange for that, right? Quentin doesn't have complete control over my psyche. And he does. He did it. Which is to say, I control his psyche too. Right? I'm depressed because he's depressed. Nothing in my life has changed. Beyond that, I had a job and I was working and I was making my way in the world. So, I just feel like it's time to resolve it. It's just time to it's just time for the women to accept, right, that they're as far as Mikey and Sydney and all these people, that they're any one of these people could hold him accountable, right, and call the authorities and say this is where he is. He needs to go to the hospital, and that's he's deeply troubled. He has no inner peace. Right? Every cell in his body vibrates with the deepest frequency violence that anyone can endure. And I am ashamed over not submitting in that way, but also in that way. Right? It's not incumbent upon me to read his mind. I don't have to make satanic pacts, right, with Hollywood for money. I don't have to do that. Right? That Quentin could have made this smallest shred of a pact with the Almighty, to respect me because he needed me to join his family. That's the point. Right? That's that Daniela has been miserable for a long time because he made a real fool of himself, and now he's right. Right? He moved to, we all know this. Everyone in town knows this, right? That he stayed in Tel Aviv, right? Because he had to do what he does. Right? He can't do it in LA anymore. And now that right, Gal Gadot and all these bitches have been turned out, revolving door of satanic initiation, the Tarantino house. Right, again, just when I think about I sent a postcard, showing that I was doing this show, and I said Merry Christmas. Right? He was supposed to let her be young and in love, He's that's the real point. That's the real point. Only if he loves her. That's the point. That's the point. He had no business. He had no business marrying her, right? It's obviously it's a sham, disgusting thing to show the industry, right, that he's not behaving the way that he has been, and he lied to all of them, right? Number one, right? She's not. It's obvious that she's not strong enough to stop him, or she would have. Right? It's obvious that, right, that she's not strong enough to leave him, or she would have. Right? That he is, right? He's crawled all the way into her mind, right? And exists as a disgusting thing, right? A hideous malignancy of thought. That's how he exists in everyone's mind. Right? And so everyone up until now, right, they've all known the full story. They've all understood that he wrestles with a lot, that he's a miserable bastard for a specific reason, right? And so every bitch in town knows it because he made a fool of himself in the 90s, didn't he? What's Pam Grier got to say about it? Stacey Sher, right? You were dating him. Pulp Fiction. Big Jerry. Right? So, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. I know that, it doesn't matter. Nihilism, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever occurs, right? Like, if nothing occurs, right? I guess that's the joke, that there is no movie if you can't control my mind. I feel like that probably is true in some way. That it's such a disgusting script that they flexed their star power, like, in a real way. When he announced Brad Pitt and said, nope, this is not the end of this. He's gonna do something. And he just stared at the wall for 3 months while I was writing my essay, while I was, like, going back to work, while I was, like, picking up the pieces, saying, okay, I get it. Quentin Tarantino's a fucking loser, right? Who doesn't respect my heart, doesn't respect my mind. Man, and that's still true. It must be. Right? Or he's destroyed his wife's mind to such an attenuated degree, her and her daughter, that he can't let them out of his sight, or they'll never come back. I think that could be true as well. And so and then again, that's not my fault. That's not my fault. That has nothing to do with Tribeca, does it? But it does, doesn't it? Because, right, Daniela is tired of, like, living in his sex dungeon. That's like, she wants to be out, like, in the world, like, listening to music and, like, going out and, like, having fun. And I want that for her too. Yeah, do I kind of look like her father? Like, yeah, I think I kind of do, actually. Very crude, but he's Polish, I'm Irish, European. Move. So everything's Freudian, isn't it? I saw my father turning his back, just like Quentin turned his back on me, because my father was absent. Right? And so he wanted me to be his father. He wanted me to yell. He wanted me to say, I got a question about this book. Wanted me to fuck his mind. And I suppose, like, the other side of that would be me just, like, staring at him until he turns back around. What? I got scared. I hated that I had no one to look to. I hated that it was all strangers. And I had nothing but nice conversations with everyone. And I know, right, like, during the credits, he wanted me to confess to the woman that he placed next to me. Like, I do know that, and I never did. Man, so again, this is a testament to his wickedness. This isn't a testament to my cowardice. It's a testament to his manipulation, his unilateral manipulation. Right, that he doesn't know how to be calm. He doesn't know how to be kind. He doesn't know how to be wise. right? And so this is why it's the lesser mysteries. This is why he's like bogged down in the lesser mysteries, because his body is broken, right? So he can't elevate his thoughts out of it because it's a genetic, it's a chromosomal divine imprint upon his soul, right? Just like when he let me believe he was trying to give me AIDS. You know, that's like, and there's something there, isn't there? Right, that he has no cum. That he doesn't ever have to worry about that, does he? So, I'm sure I don't have it. There's no way I could have it. But I'm not getting tested until I blow huge loads on all these women. That's the deal. That's the deal. We can all be adults. Like, we can all, like, ruminate on power together. Because, like, together's better. Right? It's just really sad how disgusting it all is, you know? And let's not forget that when he did that, right, the next day I was like, you keep everything. You keep, like, no, I need nothing that you're offering me. Whatever's around you, nope, you just go your way. You just go away. And then he said, I want you to sue, and kept being evil. Right? Because this is about his wife. This is about his marriage, you know? This is about the women in his life. Right? So, right? Disgusting movie. Disgusting abuses of power. Disgusting manipulation of women. Disgusting abuses of wisdom. Right? I suspect I've initiated these women more than he ever has. Right? So this is what I said in my email to Mike, that like if we come together, like we can still, right? He can still play the psychic mind game, but now he can do it right. That's the point. Right? I have no choice but to accept that he's there. And this is why, right? This is why I say I wish he would just blow his head off. You know, that's like, you know, if he can't love his wife enough, if he can't, right? Because I'll never be free of him. I'll never be free of him. It's hard to imagine the thought of like me committing suicide, like what that would look like to him. You know, like if I'm never going to. I'm not suicidal. Oh, I failed my Hollywood satanic initiation? Drats. Oh gosh, I could have fucked all that hot pussy. Oh. Darn. Right? That those are not things worth being upset about when you already understand the truth, right? This is what Socrates espouses in the Republic, right? That you can be wise without a teacher, but it's much more difficult to get there. And so another thing that someone else says, Adamantius, in the Republic, is that justice is the advantage of the stronger. And I think that that's like what we're kind of in the middle of now, where, you know, Claudius, when justice buys the law, that's what it is, isn't it? And so, right, I've lived like a pauper all this time to show him, right, this is the highest understanding of the psychic mind game. Right? Sacrifice, self-respect, love. Right? This is power. Right? The way that he treats people, the way that he sees his role in the world as some sort of satanic demiurge, right? It's disgusting. It has to stop. Right? I don't actually want him to kill himself. That's not like what I want. And I see, you know, like if I get all the women, right? And he's just alone, right, in his house. You know, like what does his family have to say about it? You know, what does his mother have to say about it? Are they all as miserable as he is? You know? I know he has siblings. I feel like they're all fucked up like he is. That's like, I know he's got a brother and a sister. I looked them up. They don't have any kids. Why do you think that is? Right? Because, right? His father's a miserable bastard. And he fucked up his mother's womb. That's the point. right? That when he assaulted her with Quentin, right, it created an undue perturbation in the physical structure of the womb, right, which always resulted in chromosomal deficiencies as a result of improper cellular division. There it is. And so that's really sad, that they're all just like these bitter, like miserable people. And now I'm the only one who feels like I might die any minute, as far as like him kicking my door in, like bullets like raining through my house, him poisoning my animals, something like that. It's like it's fish. What does Eliza Anastasio have to say about it? What does David Berlinski have to say about it? Right? Are you actually like a spiritual soothsayer, David Berlinski? Did you write The Devil's Delusion? David Mamet? Right? Did you write The Old Religion? I'm finding it harder to believe that all of these people are just okay with it. That there's no way Trey's wife is interested in like considering this for the next 10 years of her life, for the next 10 years of their lives. That's right. That's a hell. That's a hell, right? If they've been initiated properly, and they have been informed, right, that this is because Quentin treats Daniela like shit, that he treats both of them like shit, that they wanted a man from the outside, right? Because I don't care like what he did to them, right? Then, right, are you okay with knowing that there's no one else? Right? That anyone in Hollywood, right? They just see the people who allow him to treat them like disgusting skanks, like satanic whores. Right? And anyone they see outside of Hollywood reminds them of me. Right? Every time Daniela speaks to her mother, right? Every time she sees her mother, every time she sees her sister, right? They all like, it's the same. That's the same with Mikey, right? It's the same with Sydney. It's the same with Margaret. Right? That's the point. That's the point. That they'll that they can fall in love with someone else. Sure, that's great. I don't not want that. But is it actually is it legitimately feasible that any other man will fight a quarter as hard, half as hard as I have, unknowingly, for them, for all of them? And of course the answer is no, it's impossible. It's impossible. Because everyone else that they meet, right, is filtered through, right, the lens of comfort, right, of independence, of thought, of spirit, of freedom of choice. Right? And so, right, Quentin stripped all of those things from me. And I spent all of this time saying, I do love you. Like I want the woman that wants to see me. That's like, sure, I want that. I took a vow of celibacy. I can't see that with my clairvoyance, right? I don't care to submit my mind for money or fame, right? But if this is about a soulmate, if this is about like defining my life around love, and that you're just like such a wreck in your mind that it has to be filtered through your psychic lizard slime, then I'll climb the pinnacle of satanic initiation. Sure. High priests, hierophants. Right? Introductions, exit strategies, retirement, high magic, black magic, white magic, quantum entanglement, psychic phenomenon, remote viewing. The point is that he's gotten what he wants. That's like the real thing. The thing that I never wanted, right? Because I never cared about fucking his wife. right? And so when I think about her like shooting the perfect gamble while we were, during Tribeca, right? Why was she shooting it then? Well, you're like, oh, that's an accident. Like, no, it's not an accident. That's not an accident, right? That he does disgusting things to her, and so he sent her across the world, right? So that, right? I don't have to say it. It's really disgusting to consider, but, and I know that she knows I don't care about that. That's like, right? Like, oh, like someone thinks you're a whore. Like, whatever, you're fine, right? Like, it's all good. Fuck them, right? And so Quentin treats all these women the same way, right? Right? So the point of the movie critic is to put it, boom, on the screen, right? And then he never does it again. I guess, is that like, right? Like is that like the justification, Hollywood? And I feel like it probably is. He said, no, I'll do it with this guy, and then he'll do all the sadistic sexual shit. And me been celibate for 9 years by that point, 8 years, you know. And of course he couldn't divine that in the same way that I couldn't divine that he's broke because his wife is so fine, right? Because like it makes no sense to me, like why you would take a wife unless you've been put in sexual jail. That's the point, because your buddy got locked up. That's the real point, isn't it? And so Daniela, right? She made that Faustian pact with the devil to be a famous Hollywood wife, right? Never got to really work. Didn't even get to play Sharon Tate, right? Why do you think that is? It's also obvious that he wanted Leo to be what I am. That's what it really is, right? If Cliff Booth is the analog for Quentin's father, right, then Rick Dalton is the analog for, right, his friend, right? It's his father or him, you know. If Cliff Booth is the analog for Quentin, right, then Rick Dalton, right? And that's what he wanted. You know, and I know that that's like the magic of what's going through your mind. If looks could kill, we'd both be broken. Do they hate that song now? You know, I don't know. The thought of him like writing a song with Fish, the thought of him involving them, disgusts me on every level. It's not mastery. It's arrogance. It's hubris. That's what it is. Right? And I can see. He says, oh, I'm going to bring this guy up and he's going to like sing one of your songs. Right? And he never told them, I'm just manipulating him and I expect to be able to control his mind forever. Right? But I loved that song when I heard it. I thought, wow, what a good song. And now I suspect the band hates it. I suspect that when they think about that song, they think about me sleeping on the street while they're all living their millionaire lives. And knowing that they got manipulated by Quentin into thinking that how he treats me is appropriate. Right? That it's okay for him to try to make me kill myself. You get it? That's the point. That's the point, Eliza. That's the point, John Fishman. That's the point, Paige McConnell. That's the point, Mike Gordon. Right? That by your tacit acceptance of his terms, which is, no, I'm going to grind him to pulp because I can't control his mind, you were all saying, I'll be glad when Brian blows his brains out and it's over with, because then I don't have to think about it anymore. Right? And so when you did the High Priestess, right, what's going through your mind? I know they were there. And that's the fucking worst New Year's Eve you'll ever do. Right? Very funny. Right? You guys like still aren't getting it. You know, it's obviously you guys still aren't getting it. Right? That he obviously exacts a sadistic reign of terror over their psyches. Right? So much so, right, that everyone in Hollywood is afraid to call the authorities because they're afraid that he'll blow their heads off, that he'll murder their kids, that he'll give them diseases, all these things, right? That's the point, right? And so, right, you could call the authorities, couldn't you, Trey? Right? I just don't see how you all can like look at yourselves, how you all can like say, no, he's handling it. He's handling it. He knows what he's doing. Right? And sure, like successor, like yeah, like I see it on that crude black magic level, like I do see it. Like writing. But it's not cool. That's the point. It's deeply manipulative. Right? And you should have never involved their hearts in the psychic mind game. Right? That's the real point, isn't it? I suppose none of us ever did anything right. I should have never believed that those people read my writing, though I believe that is true. I think that he manipulated them to open that book. I think that is probably true. But right, I should have never given him my $1 billion system of projection. I should have never cursed Ari Emanuel and Mike Simpson. Not that that matters. I know they respect me more than half of Hollywood for having the balls to say you guys are fucking losers. Right? I'm sure that's true. And so that's the joke that I made about the taping studio I did it in. That guy's under some fucking pathetic delusion that WME is going to represent him at 50 years old. Right? And of course, Quentin was manipulating him. That's also true. Right? That he's exercised his mind in the wrong direction every step of the way. Right? That rather than corner me and like grind me into right an isolated thing that feels trapped, just like all the women, right? He could have let me bring my friend, and she could have sat next to me, rubbed my back, and said, "It's cool. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing." Right? And then when he said, "Okay, it's time to go," I would have said, "I'm gonna call you. Like this is where we part ways. Like this is but right. You're in my heart. You're always with me. And that's like, is that worse? Like I don't know. Like I don't know. Did the women all love that? They probably did. They said, "Oh, cool. I bet he's got a bunch of girlfriends. He's awesome. Hot sexual stud." It's not a lie. But it's also not true, because I am celibate. But to get me thrown out of the show, to prevent his stepdaughter from being able to come, or to have an excuse to say, "Oh, well, now you can't go see him," and that's like, again, that's just manipulation. That's not a real reason. And then to spend however much money, like upwards of $20 million to set up the event, to pay for that B movie that Daniela was shooting, and prevent like any shred of control in my life, right? That I was only there because he manipulated me. Right? That's like, there it is. Right? That's like, there it is. And so this is me processing it, because like, God willing, like we're going to meet today, that it's over, that it's, I just don't see how he can just pay me. I don't see how, there's no way all of these people are like okay with him, right, holding Daniela in this way, holding her daughter, preventing me from like being with these women, like again, it's like, it's not about the movie. It's like, cool, you made your fucking disgusting fucked up movie. Right? Just let me be with them. Just let me be with them and say, it's okay. I love you. Like, I love all of you. Like, we're together. That's the magic of the movie. Right? That you don't right? That you don't have to worry, like anytime a man hits on you, that it's only because he jacked off watching you get tied up and fucked on Quentin Tarantino's film set. It's because I love you. It's because I'm the man that dominates your psyche and your body. That's the magic of the movie, right? That's real magic, for sure. Easy, simple, loving, true, beautiful, good. And I'll be fine with that. No trophies. They have money, right? They'll let me do whatever I want, I'm sure. Right? But I just don't see how all of these studios, I don't know. And I don't know. The more that I think about it, the more I'm sure that Sony never cared, that none of these people care. It's his mind, it's his career, right? The girls all want him. He doesn't understand that. Right? He doesn't care about money. He'll do it for free because he feels bad. Like he's going to save us a bunch of money. And now I contend that all the women probably did say, we'll do it for free. Because this movie's disgusting and he doesn't understand that we're the ones who wanted him to play the role. Right? That Quentin's the only one who's been like a goblin about this. Right? And he's like overextended himself to such a degree, like as a practitioner, right? As a sorcerer, that now, like maybe his LA privileges have been revoked and he is actually here. That they've all said, no, like you're gonna reconcile with Brian. That's like what it's time for. Right? And so this week, the show's next Saturday. That's like when the show is. And like if I'm supposed to be in the show, I haven't been rehearsing those songs at all. Right? Because I did that at Tribeca and my soul told me that it was disgusting. And yeah, like it was cowardly. Like sure, yeah, it was fearful. Yeah, I shouldn't live in my fear. That's true, right? But the pendulum swings both ways, people. That's the point. That's the point, right? My ambition lives in the shadow of my wisdom, right? But that's like, there it is, That he never had to create these like convoluted systems of traps, right? And make no mistake, right? No matter what he tells people, it was about establishing an unhealthy psychological foundation in me, right? Because of how he is, right? Because of how he treats everyone. Right? That he wants me to be okay with like existing in a perpetual kind of dream logic. And I don't like that at all. No, that's not cool. That's a dangerous psychology. That's the point. And I know I've been rambling on and on. No one watches these videos. And I grow so weary. I grow so tired of Trey, Fish, Mondegreen. They did. They blew it. 100%. And so, right, I blew my satanic initiation and Quentin blew his celestial initiation. Right? That he was supposed to say, cool, cool, really talented guy, and he's good looking. My wife likes him, and he can like take her out, and that's I don't know, mastery. What does it mean to be a master? Of course, a true master, right? A true hierophant is loving and easy, right? So. And I'm not saying I'm Socrates, but it does kind of feel like, right? If I'm on trial, right, Saturday, if I'm not on trial yet, I will be on Saturday in some way. And so if I'm there and it's like a bunch of Hollywood elites in the audience and they see me shining my light, then that's its own spell. And I'm prepared to work on the songs as soon as I see someone, as soon as I see something legitimate. Right? And if it's the other thing, right, then they've all lost. They're all gone in their minds. That all of Hollywood, all of music, all of show business, it's not rooted in beauty, it's not rooted in love, right? It's rooted in disgusting control, And so, all of these producers, right, all of these studios, Right? You've allowed him to run amok for long enough. You know? Right? I expect the sovereignty of my mind. That's all. That's all. Right? He's allowed to play mind games with me, right? But to go through my mind to my friend, right, and manipulate her to not go, right? That's a sin, you know, like that's a disgusting abuse of power, right? And that's why everything went south, because when he turned his back, my soul, you know, the eye of the soul sees all. That's the point. That's the real point. Evil Black Mass, right, with my favorite band. Disgusting Black Sabbath. The conspiracy so wide. It's mind-boggling. You know, it's mind-boggling. Like that no one truly understands. Daniela and her daughter are the only two that like really understand everything that he's doing. Right? And so in the novel, right, Michelangelo daguerreotype contracts AIDS from Annabella because she unknowingly injects it into him before she conceives a baby with him, after they finish Once Upon a Time in Tinseltown. Right, and so that stems from, right, Quentin's campaign against me, right? That it was like no one fucked me, right? But it was like very similar, very similar. The only difference was I didn't have a fine piece on top of me, right? That he and whoever else, right? That they were like doing this thing, you know, this black magic thing, right? And it's as disgusting as it gets. Right, and so that's the Hollywood legend, Ben Mankiewicz. That's like, there it is, right? Disgusting satanic overlord. Right, what does Paul Thomas Anderson have to say about it? Well, what does Steven Spielberg have to say about it? Oh, you say that Hamnet, like that we do like group meditations before Hamnet, right? Like, did he get her to make Hamnet because like I want to play Hamlet? Is that like, and it's like a woman, and then it's me because like I'm the sexual fantasy for all the women. And psychic chess, like, oh gosh, like right? Just say what you want. Just confess before the altar of the Lord. Right? And so I'm gonna go downtown maybe a little later once my mother gets back here, and I'm gonna order that stupid fucking hot dog, and then I'll wait for it to come out. I'll open it. I'll see nothing there. I'll throw it in the trash, and then I'll leave. And then I can know that it's all just a sick game. That it's just very funny, you know. And then I'll print out my essay and I'll start disseminating it, and wait for him to murder me. You know, that's all I can do. I know. So pray for me. Pray for him. Pray for his wife. You know, pray for their family. Pray for the kids. You know, like children. I just don't see why it has to be so disgusting still. Right? Like I was supposed to see something beautiful in his satanic initiation over my psyche. Right? Like sure, like I see that as far as the role, as far as like writing, right? But that's actually not cool. That's the point. Right? And anyone who's a writer, like David Berlinski, right? Like Manly Palmer Hall, Aleister Crowley, right? Like all these guys, right? Like, no, they all know, like, oh, yeah, like, no, he was manipulating you. That's like, yeah, like, that's like, it was an exercise in control to make me submit my mind to him so that he could create this beautiful moment out of him manipulating me, right? And then when I saw him manipulating me throughout the rest of my life, throughout the rest of his life, it would always be filtered through, right, this psychic chess game where I got my money and my fame and all the witches by submitting to him. You know, that's the point. Right? And so perhaps we're gearing up to do it again. Right? Or perhaps they're gearing up to actually try to kill me, that they're actually, right? There's no way. I can't believe that. It's really fucking hard for me to believe that. Right? Unless he is outright like telling everyone, I'm going to blow my wife's head off if you don't give me what I want. Right? So we have to come together. We have to love each other now. That's right. You did it. Like, you got your unhealthy amount of control over my psyche. Right? And there's nothing beautiful about what you were doing at Tribeca, just like there's nothing beautiful about what's occurring now. Right? So whatever the truth is, and if he does this thing and he tries to, like, right, use all of these people, use my favorite band to, like, actually destroy my psyche, that's like, I can go get a lawyer and say, no, that was all a humiliation ritual for me, like, that they all actively conspired to destroy my psyche, and I need to file suit against all of them, as well as Sony Pictures, because, like, the movie is my intellectual property. It's my spiritual film, just as much as it's his. And so that's right. I'm just kind of, like, barreling towards that day, not really able to, like, do anything. And so the last thing that I can do is go buy this hot dog and see if that's enough, see if that's, like, me saying, okay, Quentin, I'm trusting that there's something good on the other side of this. And if not, I just have to wait until Saturday. So time will tell. God bless.